It's been a few years now since you've been able to buy an STI badged Subaru WRX. Subaru just cannot sell them right now with the current global state of emissions and regulations in the United States and globally. But they have given us this. This is the 2025 Subaru WRX TS. That stands for Tuned by STI. So this is basically going to be the most performance-oriented Subaru WRX that you can currently buy, at least until they finally decide to bring the STI back. You get the adaptive dampers from the GT, which were only available on that model with an automatic transmission, but you get bigger brakes, some suspension tuning from last year's TR model. Today, we're going to talk about if this is now the perfect WRX and whether or not you should choose it over other sporty options like the Toyota GR Corolla, Hyundai Elantra N, Volkswagen GTI, and Honda Civic Type R. Let's dive in. So we're going to start with a brief walk around here because honestly, not too much has changed here for this 2025 TS model. We've got the traditional WRX front end that has been familiar for a while now. We've got the red WRX logo right here that really pops with this World Rally Blue. I think World Rally Blue is the best color to be getting this car in, although there is a new, I believe it's called Galaxy Purple color that looks really cool as well, but can't beat World Rally Blue in my opinion. You've got the nice hood scoop that has been ubiquitous on WRXs for a while now. We've got the 19-inch wheels here on the TS wrapped in these Bridgestone Potenza tires. Now, this is not a new wheel, sadly. I wish that Subaru would have given the TS a special wheel. Would have been really cool if they would have done a bronze wheel to kind of pay homage to previous STIs. We do, however, get these really cool bronze Brembo brakes, 6-piston up here in the front, 2-piston back here in the rear, and we do have that cladding that you're either going to love or hate here on this car. It's kind of growing on me, to be honest. It works well in certain colors. Black actually looks really good with the cladding. Here at the back, we have the big cladded bumper, but we have those really nice quad exhaust tips right here. We've got what they call sort of their magma taillight. You can see there's actually a lot of really nice intricacy in that taillight. We actually have a lot of badging here. We have Subaru, we have the symmetrical all-wheel drive badge, and then back here we have a new badge that says WRX TS. You'll notice that the WRX part is actually written in red, the T is silver, and then that S, it looks like red on the camera, but it's actually that old like STI pink that was kind of an interesting color, and you do get some gloss black accents here. You get a black shark fin antenna, you get a little black spoiler here, the mirror caps are black as well. It is a pretty nice looking package as far as WRXs go. So now that we've looked at the exterior, which isn't really all that changed on this TS model, let's go ahead and look at the interior where there are some more significant changes. We do have the Recaro seats that you have been able to get on other models, but now they have this really cool blue leather trim. You're either going to love or hate this. This is the only color option that you can get on the TS, so you better make sure you like the blue, and you better make sure you like the color that you pair it with. You can get every color on the WRX on the TS, including the red, so you can do a red and blue, which is a little bit too much for me, but I do like how the World Rally Blue pairs with these blue Recaro seats that are heated. We do have a power driver seat, but a manual passenger seat. I did notice that the bolsters are a little bit tighter here on the driver's side than they are on the passenger side, but they are a little bit tight for my rib cage, so if you are a bigger guy, you'll want to try these out before you buy them. The bottoms are pretty good though, so as long as you are skinny up here, you should be just fine. I love the Recaro badging up here, and I love how it says WRX TS, although it's really hard to tell if that S is, the S is the same red, whereas on the badge outside, it is that pink. So a little bit of weirdness in terms of the color continuity for this car. We do have some more blue here as well. We've got a little bit of suede. This is one of the nicer interiors that you'll be able to get in a WRX. You'll also notice that you get a red STI shifter. Or a start button, I should say. So that looks really nice. It's not the pink that you used to be able to get on some STIs, but I think they did do red on some of them as well. So that is a nice touch with the red start button. We also have the first thing you'll probably notice, a digital gauge cluster. This is the first Subaru ever to have a digital gauge cluster, the first time that you've ever been able to get it on a WRX. But what's funny is they made them look pretty much identical to the gauges that you would have gotten anyway in this 12.3 inch cluster. We do have the little STI badge though, which is quite nice. You can adjust it using this little dial right here with what's there. So you can have your satellite radio, you can have map directions in there, you can have your PSIs, you can have kind of trip information, your fuel economy, or you could have nothing. Your speedometer is going to stay in the middle. So that's really all the customization that you can have on these actual gauges. But if you push the middle button and hold it, you can actually switch how the gauges look. So you can have your full color map. This can also display your Apple Maps while you're using CarPlay, which is really nice. Or you can have kind of this safety gauge. So this will show you like your adaptive cruise control setup and stuff like that. It does have Subaru's EyeSight technology up here, which is quite nice. So I do really like the digital gauges. I am hoping that they offer some downloadable packs for this, where you could have different generations of WRX displayable. So if I wanted to have a Hawkeye or a Bug Eye or an Evo Eye and I could change it on demand, that would make this the perfect setup. So I am hoping that they eventually do that. We do have some really nice blue stitching. I'll try to show that here on the steering wheel. The steering wheel itself, really nice, not too chunky, not too small either. Good, nice buttons all around it. We do have Subaru's vertical 11.6 inch Starlink infotainment system paired to a Harman Kardon audio system here. You have some functions here at the top that you can kind of slide through. You can have the weather, stuff like that. If I go ahead and click the mode button on the steering wheel, it's going to pull up your drive mode select. Now this used to only be available on the GT, but it now comes to the TS. So you can see we have all different kinds of functions. You can change the power unit, that being the engine. You can change the steering, comfort, normal, sport. We'll try that out when we get out on the road. The suspension has comfort, normal, sport, and then you have different settings for your Subaru EyeSight as well. I should mention that some WRXs are available with a continuously variable automatic transmission, but not the TS. You can only get the TS with a 6-speed manual. It is very familiar if you've ever driven a WRX. There is no changes here for the TS specifically. Long throw with a really long lever. Pull up. It's going to get you your reverse. We have a backup camera, but no 360 camera. I personally like this shifter. It could be a little bit shorter. You can go ahead and fix that on the aftermarket. But I would have liked if they would have given us the little pink shifter knob, the way that you used to get on the STI. I think that would have been a really nice touch in here. And then the one last thing I should mention is that we do not have a moonroof. They deleted the moonroof to keep the center of gravity lower. Subaru knows that this is going to be the enthusiast focused version of the WRX, so I think most people are going to want the sunroof delete. I'll briefly mention that the back seat in the WRX has a decent amount of room. You could definitely use this as a family car. We don't have air vents back here, but we do have a USB-A and a USB-C port back here. We do also have pockets on the back of each seat, so the legroom's pretty good. Headroom, not too bad as well. And although Subaru does no longer offer the WRX as a hatch, as you can see, the trunk is quite deep here. You have a decent amount of space here. So if you are trying to buy something fun that you can like have some nice fun on the track or on a canyon road, but also use as a family car, the WRX is pretty good. All right, so let's get behind the wheel of the new 2025 WRX TS, tuned by STI. Is this the long-awaited replacement that you've been asking for the WRX STI? And I'm going to answer that question right away by saying, no, I'm sorry, it's not. What it is all the best stuff from the WRX GT, but now with a manual transmission, and all of the good stuff from last year's WRX TR. So basically, they took the TR, which got the upgraded Brembo brakes and the nice Recaro seats, the sunroof delete, all of that stuff, and they combined it with the adaptive dampers that were only available on the GT, which only comes with the continuously variable transmission, which enthusiasts obviously hated. Why would Subaru pair the best suspension in the WRX with an automatic and not give you the manual? So finally, they have rectified that with this new TS model, so you can finally get all of the good stuff. And I feel like we should start by talking about the adaptive suspension, because while the components are the same as what you get in the GT, the TS, because it's tuned by STI, means that the tuning of the dampers is a little bit different. So Subaru kind of showed me a graph showing that, you know, you can get a little bit firmer even in comfort mode. You can get a little bit stiffer in the Sport Plus modes. Now, honestly, once I hit the mode button, I love putting this car into individual. The way that I like driving this car around is power unit in sport, steering in sport, suspension in comfort, and then the Subaru eyesight in dynamic. So the steering also gets a little bit heavier. That's something that we did not have last year in the TR. The sport steering, I wouldn't call it too heavy. It's very direct on center. I feel like I can really point and shoot this car around. Obviously, we have Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive. That is a WRX trait, and it really just sticks to the ground super well. I don't have a lot of feedback coming from the wheel. We're on this road that has a lot of little undulations, and I'm not really getting that back through the steering. It's kind of a one-way conversation, but it is really direct. It is really sharp. I do like driving it in the sport mode. And then the dampers in comfort mode soak up the bumps pretty well. It's definitely firm even in comfort mode, but what I've noticed is we go over a big sort of undulation, the suspension comes down, it rebounds really well, and then it just settles. It doesn't do a lot of secondary rebound. It doesn't take a long time to settle, which is really nice. But what you probably want me to do is stop being a wimp and put the suspension into its sportiest setting. So we're going to go full Sport Plus. This is going to put every setting we have into the sportiest settings. You can do Sport mode, which is going to keep the suspension a little bit softer, but do everything else. Sport Plus mode puts everything aggressive, and I'm already noticing we are feeling these bumps quite a lot more. My co-driver is already being shaken up quite a bit with the suspension in its Sport Plus mode. And when we get it out on the racetrack a little bit later, Subaru rented Sonoma Raceway for us. Maybe I would want the suspension to be this firm, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I was not having less fun in this car with the suspension in its comfort mode. It was not rolling and pulling everywhere with the suspension in comfort mode. But now, we are really just getting beat up a lot more with this suspension. So I love the fact that you can just kind of leave it in the comfort mode. Is it a little bit sharper and a little bit more, composed around these corners? Yes, but I just don't know if the trade-off is there for me personally to leave it on during normal driving. And of course, we've got to talk about the engine. It's a 2.4 liter turbocharged flat four. We know Subaru loves its boxer engines, and unfortunately, we do not have any more power in this TS model from any other WRX. So you get 271 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque going out to all-wheel drive. It definitely feels quick. It's not the loudest engine. You don't get like cracks and popples. You just get that kind of boxer warble. You know the sound if you've ever been in a WRX. I think a lot of people will probably end up doing an aftermarket exhaust on this car because it is a little bit quiet for my liking. Compared to some of the other things in the segment, maybe it compares well to something like a GTI, but you've got the Elantra N that is just so loud. You've got the Civic Type R, which doesn't sound that great, but the Integra Type S really does sound great. So this is certainly not the best sounding engine, nor is it the most powerful in the segment, but the fact that you can still get it with all-wheel drive is quite nice. I gotta take it out of Sport Plus. We're gonna go back into comfort. Now the steering gets a little bit too light for my liking. This was one of the problems that people had with the TR, which didn't have the adaptive steering. So I do like the fact that you can get heavier steering plus the suspension, put that in comfort mode. That's kind of the ideal way to drive this, because if you just go into full comfort, now the steering is really loosey-goosey. I really don't feel as confident in it as I did when I had the steering in its Sport Plus setting. So that's the way you're going to want to stick it in individual mode and customize it, because now the steering is just a little bit too light. So is this the STI replacement that some people were hoping? Definitely not. It does not have the clever diffs of the STI. It does not have the immense power of the STI. But is this a good WRX? And the answer to that is yes. I like this a lot more than the last regular WRX that I drove. I like the adaptive suspension. I like these new gauges. I can't wait to see if they are able to put some more heritage gauges in there as well. And I love the brakes, the 6-piston Brembos up front, 2 pistons in the rear. Those work really well. I think on a racetrack, they're going to be really good as well. And the shifter might not be everybody's favorite, but I've always been kind of a fan of the big, long shifter in the WRX. It has a really nice feel to it. The clutch is super easy. And with all-wheel drive, you do just kind of feel invincible in this car. I think I'd still probably buy a GR Corolla, but I could understand why somebody would want this. This does feel more premium on the inside. It feels like a better family car than the STI, and I do think it feels a little bit more fun than a Golf GTI. So that is going to wrap up our time with the 2025 Subaru WRX TS. Now the big question is, that's probably on your mind, how much is this WRX going to cost me? And unfortunately, as of filming this video, I just do not know. They do not have pricing for any of the 2025 WRX models, including the TS. They did tell us that it's the same feature content that you were getting on the GT, which is like $44,000 or $45,000. So that's what I'm going to estimate it at. I think it's going to be about 45 grand. That's more expensive than the TR was. That was under 42 grand, but you didn't get the adaptive suspension and you didn't get the digital gauge cluster. Now the question is, would I spend 45 grand on this, or would I go for a Civic Type R? Would I save a lot of money and get the Hyundai Elantra N? I think in my personal opinion, I think the Elantra N just feels a little bit more special because of its engine. I think the GR Corolla's all-wheel drive system is a little bit more advanced, though this is the better everyday car. It's a little bit softer, backseat is a little bit better, and even the trunk is a little bit better than the GR Corolla. The Honda Civic Type R, still my favorite shifter. I love that engine, but you don't get all-wheel drive. That might be something to consider. And I think overall, I do enjoy this car more than the GTI. Although the GTI has some cheap bits, I think it does still feel a little bit more premium than this, but you do have to step all the way up to the Golf R to get all-wheel drive, but then you're actually at similar money to this TS, and then you're getting a hatchback. Personally, I do still like other options, but if you are a true Subaru enthusiast, I think that the TS is everything that you could have possibly wanted from a WRX, minus the power that you would have gotten from an STI. I personally think that the power output on this is fine. If you're a power-hungry person, I think you're probably going to be better off with something like a GTI. You can just tune those really easily. Even something like the Corolla has more power than this. So power-hungry people will probably want to look elsewhere, but Subaru did as good of a job as I think they could have done without giving it more power. Everything else I do really like on the TS. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos, and I'll see you next time.